Hey guys, welcome to the show. Got a great one lined up for you today. As usual, if you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below, along with the numpty clips. So make sure you don't forget about that. It's right in the information box below. Let's get to the panel. How's it going out there, guys?
All
Good,
right,
good.
man.
Welcome, Ballbusters. Those of you in the audience.
Good afternoon.
Evening, everyone.
What's shaking?
Full moon. Full moon.
What's that mean?
Means
moon
that
is
a
like a
certain
whole
light
circle.
in the sky is at its brightest.
Hey, Kiwi, later, if you don't mind, I got a question to ask you about a specific thing.
If it's not on science, then you have to wait till after the show. But
No,
we're good.
no, it's on science. It's definitely on science. It's observation that.
Okay.
Oh, not much small talk going on. Importance of this subject, which Quantum Eraser has currently dropped anchor on, cannot be understated. We have been swindled into belief of sphere Earth beneath our feet by way of an application of language that utilizes words that mean empiricism, would be science, or experiment, or hypothesis, or theory. Those words, when used without an application of the scientific method, are defined as pseudoscience. That is what the ball Earth is propped up with, pseudoscience. So, to recognize where pseudoscience is being applied and claim to be science, because it will come with a title of science, it must do for it to be defined as pseudoscience, i.e. an application of a claimed science when no method has been applied. That would be pseudoscience. To spot it, you need to know what science is. That's why we're dropping anchor here. That's why the presentation that you'll hear will be familiar. But repetition's what it's all about when it comes to understanding this stuff, and it's very important that we all do, so we know where we're being swindled.
Yes, sir. Like I said, I'm dropping anchor here. People are going to get sick of it, but I want them to be able to recognize the words and phrases and understand their enemy. Make no mistake. They are your enemy. I can't stress that enough. So know your enemy. Know the tricks of their trade, which is logical fallacy and science masquerading, and pseudoscience masquerading as actual science. That's where you get them. So if you know those two aspects, you're golden. But as I said, I mean, how can I be begging the question if I didn't ask a question? Think about that.
Not going to fill in the audience on the in-joke, clearly not. Moving on.
Is that not Mr. Jeremy's?
Gamma Panda, Shamalama, Gamma Panda, Ding Dong. Yeah, yesterday, listening to Ladies Night on 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. Shout out to the ladies over there. He decides to chime in, so he comes over to Ladies Night, think he's going to get something over on the ladies, and they charged him with begging the question fallacy, and he decided that, well, how can he be begging the question when he didn't even ask a question? Thank you for that. It shows exactly right where you're at, Mr. Magoo. So appreciate, that's what I always say. Just let them open up their incoherent pie holes and they'll do your work for you. Stay tuned to the numpty clips. It's going to be on there probably by the end of the day. Yes, sir. Thank you.
They're still getting published on Miggy's channel.
Yeah, they've slowed down a little bit because we've gotten sort of busy, but they should be populating up still. There's a boatload in there, about 85, 86, the last count, somewhere in that vicinity.
Excellent stuff.
And 2 in the hopper. Yeah, so just go into the description box and you'll see QE's and empty clips. I highly suggest, if you're bored, if you really want to, I think the globe earthers are the best flat earth evidence that we have. So I've put them in audio format for you. So you can distribute to family, friends, their loved ones, just to show them where the globetards are at. And it doesn't look good, and it's not smelling very well either.
It's like a Glober snack bar. Quickly fried Globers.
There's some ridiculous things on there that I even find myself doing double takes. Like, wait a second. What did you say? Yeah. It's I got to get it up on the website too, and that'll be happening shortly. Which, by the way, I haven't checked the website's numbers, and I haven't been doing that for the past couple months. But if I'm not mistaken, I'm over 20,000 hits on that website. But I'll confirm that maybe tomorrow, and I'll get back with you. But I'm pretty impressed with that. I wasn't expecting. It's almost been out a year. I think I released it somewhere in April of last year. So I think we're real close. If it's not close, it's surpassed it. The last time I looked, it was something like 19,000 or something. Right. So, I mean, that's a lot of people, man. And then in Google Analytics, you could find out where all the people that have hit the site, where they're at, like geographically, and it's all over the world. So I think I missed it. I don't think I got anyone in Greenland. But does anyone live in Greenland, by the way?
It might get a lot more hits if you called it globeterminator.com rather than that site.
Yeah, good. Yeah. globeterminator.com. I might want to put like a link or something in there. Is that what you're trying to say?
A lot to learn, young Jedi.
Yeah, I know, I do. The link to the Globe Terminator website is also in the description box. I'm telling you, people, there's a lot of good information in that info box. There's some video links in there. There's links to my channel, the Numpty playlist. There is a ton of good information in there. And I know a lot of people don't like it's not that they don't like it. They just don't think about it. I do that myself. Don't hit the description, but I find myself lately in other videos that I'm interested in, I'll hit that description box to see what kind of goodies are in there. Most of the time, it's not very much, but you never know what kind of gems you're going to find there. So, look at that. I can even put that in the chat.
That's globeterminator.com.
Let me spam the heck out of that, man.
I say it verbally. A lot of people don't. You say people don't look in the info box. A lot of people don't look at the screen. Me, I'm one of them. Half the time when these videos are running, I've got them on and I'm doing the dishwasher or making dinner or doing something else. I'm actually listening. Normally, it's because I haven't got time. So the only time you do, you're not looking at it. You're not sat in front of it. You've got to say these things verbally many times. For
right.
all your globe terminating needs, visit globeterminator.com.
Yeah, we might. You know what? A good darn idea. We might as well do something like that. We got the technology, man. I can. Go ahead.
Sure,
Cool. I'm on there. I forgot. I'm actually on the site. Just bumped into myself as I was scrolling around. It looks pretty good and it works smooth. Good job.
Yeah, there's a couple things, and I just posted it. There's a couple things on here that need not updating, but they need worked on. So we're going to try to get that squared away over the next month. Shout out to Davey. Try to get that squared away over the next month, right? Yeah. So there's Terminate. Like I said, it's got the proofs of the creator. Scientific proofs. It goes systematically, step by step. Okay. I had a lot of people hit this website and tell me that it's changed their lives. Seriously, I'm not making that up. So, like I said, it's systematic. There's no, how would you call it, fillers in here. It gets right to the point. It states a claim, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 supporting points underneath it. There's no fluff in here. All right? Flat Earth proofs. There they are. It goes from the Black Swan, Flight, Bolivian Salt Flats, the ESSM Block 1 Sea Sparrow, the Coriolis effect, or lack of, and no vacuum of space. They have the same parameters, right? Claim, and then boom, boom, bullet support, right? Yeah. This is invaluable. Like I said, I found myself, people are asking me, hey, can you give me the video of the vacuum of pressure or the vacuum of space proof? I just, sometimes I find myself chasing down the video and then I say, what in the world? I just go to my website and just give them this link, right? Just bam. And give them the link and it's easy for me, right? And like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, boom, boom, boom. You know the routine, right? Has all the information right here. So if you haven't been here, tell your friends and family, jump on this site. It'll change your life, hopefully.
GlobeTerminates.com.
Shoot, I learned more about natural science through you, QE, than I ever thought I could.
Listen to that. Personal testimonials, too.
Ruined the joke I was going to make. I was going to say those testimonials about it changing their life was because it's riddled with viruses and they had to take their computers to a shop. That joke's gone now.
That's pretty bad, man.
Joke.
Oh.
You as well, Nathan Oakley, tangent planes with Flight to Flat Earth. That was amazing.
Tangent plane with Fight the Flat Earth.
Yeah, he didn't know what you were talking about. That was an amazing video, dude. I learned a lot from that.
Vaguely remember him assuming a tangent and being hesitant to say it, only to later drop it in as a assumptive statement or question. I've forgotten the clip, but yeah, I vaguely remember.
Oh, yeah, from Mr. Thermal Dynamics. That's what he calls it. He's done studying thermal dynamics. What a bonehead. Yeah, that's you, Fight the Flat Girth. Unbelievable. I do remember that video, though. Was he videotaping or running that live as you were running live also?
Yeah.
He made some boneheaded moves. I don't want to talk about him. Let's talk about some real stuff, man. Let's get into this science presentation. Like I said, this is going to look familiar to you. Mike, discipline, guys. This should look familiar to you, to all you. You've seen it the past couple of weeks. We're going to do it again. Right? Why? Because I can. And because it's that important. I did talk about this section. This section is for flat earthers. I've had this section in most of the presentations. I would say 90% of the presentations since I began. Even back in the cathexis days, I've had this presentation, so it's been going on for a while. And I've noticed, as I said last week, that I haven't heard too many of the Pete and Pete issues that flat earthers have been running around with lately. So that is, they're trying to indict actual science with the pseudosciences. That is putting the actual sciences, that's quantum mechanics, that's physics, chemistry, biochemistry, parts of biology, throwing them in the same basket as the demonstrated pseudosciences that go around calling themselves science, put them all in the basket of science, have that title right above them, right before they toss them in the bonfire. And that is a bad move, and it will get you embarrassed quick, especially anyone that can fog a mirror. But It seems like this is getting toned down. I haven't been hearing a lot of that lately. I'm thinking about maybe subtracting it out of the presentation, but it's going to take much more than that. I think they're just waiting until I do that, like setting me up for a trap and then bringing their Pete and Pete's back out again. So I've got a weathered eye in your general direction. I'm not taking it out anywhere. It's staying. Let's get into this. As we've demonstrated, and we'll demonstrate again here, it's very easy to demonstrate that paleontology, anthropology, geology, archaeology, evolutionary biology, whatever that is, and yes, I'm still laughing, theoretical physics, non-experimental, that's redundant, by the way, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology, these are not frigging natural sciences at all. Because to be natural science, you have to follow the scientific method. You have to have hypotheses. You have to have those hypotheses validated by experiment. That's hypothesis test to be science. That's what sets science apart, natural science, apart from any other explanation. It's just that simple. These bozos up here, they can't do it. They can't get to the hypothesis stage. Now, the top 6 pretenders up here, they can get to the first step of the scientific method. They can't get to the first scientific method, so they can't even enter the method. That's what a joke these guys are, right? These guys right here can get to the first step of the scientific method. They can observe a natural phenomena. They can attain their dependent variable. However, they can't get the independent variable, the cause of their natural phenomena effect. They can't even conjure one, let alone get it in a hypothesis. The hypothesis is invalid. You ain't getting to experiment with an invalid hypothesis. Like I said, they aren't friggin' sciences. And I don't know, people are Jedi mind tricked. They see, the banner, the term science over top of the gates at university, science, right? And they'll have one of these so-called disciplines, their names on the door, right? Well, that ain't happening. The names on the door ain't going to make it. You could have a name on a door, who cares? You got to have substance. If you're a banana, you have to be chock full of complex carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, potassium, B6. You have to have a skin that's either yellow, purple, brown, right? It has to be a banana. It has to grow on a tree. That's the substance of it. If you freeze one of them, you destroy B6. That's what makes a banana and separates them from tumbleweeds. So to be something, you have to demonstrate characteristics of that something. So I don't know what's happened. Like I said, they Jedi mind tricked everyone because, well, they know their target audience, because most people don't know what natural science is, right? The last time they took a science class, or what's supposed to be science, is either in grade school or junior high at best, or at best in university, which was many years ago, or high school, which was many years ago. You forgot about it, right? And what you can remember about it, it gets jumbled and screwed up with the people telling you about science on TV, on the boob tube, right? So you're all convoluted and crazy about it. Of course, they already know that. These pseudoscientists already know their target audience are a bunch of numpties. So they just say it, they put the banner out, this is science, right? Yeah, it's not. It's very easily disassembled, and I do it daily. Like I said, basket weaving is more scientific than these clowns. If you combine them all, basket weaving is more natural science than all of them together. Now, the problem being, like I already said, the final 3 masqueraders, we already went over this. They can't form, none of these can form a valid hypothesis, is the point, let alone test it, right? And I said the true sciences, what was happening before is people would pump or basketize quantum mechanics, which is physics, genetics, chemistry, biochemistry, and biology, and put them all in that same basket and just kick them out, mule kick them out, right? These guys are lying. They're not science. They're pseudoscience. No. You're going too extreme. You're not paying attention to detail. right? Now, I'm not giving these guys a free pass by no means, right? If they make a claim and it's a scientific claim, and that's what they should only be doing, then they must validate or demonstrate it by experiment to you, either in print or verbally on video, and then demonstrate it visually, right? There's no free lunch here. Just because you have the title quantum mechanics, no. No, you're making a claim of cause and effect, Buster. You better give me some experiment or it's pseudoscience. Now, all the other things that are science within quantum mechanics or any other of these disciplines, that doesn't get thrown out just because they haven't validated their one single conjure that they're telling you. That stuff stays. Still natural science. However, that specific claim that they've given you and try to grease the skids with, just because I'm quantum mechanics or I'm a geneticist, without experiment, it's cod swallow horse pucky. You just dismiss it. You ask them what the hypothesis is. And then you get the Texas two-step, yeah, get out of here. Right? We don't want to hear it. It's fairy tales. It's not science. So like I said, don't fallaciously indict the actual sciences here just by fiat, because I'm gonna get your ass in a sling. You know that's gonna happen, especially if you're in my vicinity. A lot of people have felt that. Sorry about that, but I'm not playing that game. Any quick questions here? Comments?
It's the most recent addition, isn't it, to the housekeeping questions? I say recent, it's been a long time since we added anything, but any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics? Asking that for quite some time now.
Have you gotten an answer to that yet, by the way?
We occasionally have people who will attempt to throw up a hypothesis, yeah. I think you've experienced all of them firsthand, if any of them have been repeated. In other words, fall apart, it normally falls apart at the first hurdle. Observe phenomena, they don't normally have one.
So the actual question, Mike, discipline, please. So the actual point that he's talking about, it goes like this. Please provide a single viable scientific hypothesis in any of the disciplines in their entire history. The disciplines are astronomy, astrophysics, and cosmology. You'd figure if they were natural sciences, this is a cakewalk. It's a breeze, right? They could just start spitting them out at you. Let me tell you, folks, there is not a single valid scientific hypothesis, let alone experiment. Not a single viable scientific hypothesis in their entire histories. Not one. So then you have to say, well, can you have natural science without hypotheses? We ain't even had experiment yet, right? We just want you to write it down to see if it's viable or not, let alone test it. You can't do that because it's non sequitur. So I'm going to put you in a vice, right? And I'm just going to slowly start to tighten it, hopefully in front of an audience. See, that's why not too many scientists, you're not as dumb as you look. You're not going to come into our general vicinity because as soon as that happens, you're going to get compromised, and you're going to get compromised quick. We're at that point now. So that should be quite telling to people out there listening, especially the new people. So this is the question. This is what you do to any astrophysicist, cosmologist, astronomer. This is all you do. Good afternoon, sir or ma'am. Can you provide one single viable scientific hypothesis in the entire history of your so-called discipline? Get ready for the Texas two-step and the yeah. Okay. You just watch them dance. Because that's what's going to happen, folks. I guarantee it. And that's screaming tell that you're in fairy tale land. Any questions?
Yeah, the good old days of asking people Where's your viable independent variable? Where's your dependent variable? What's your observed phenomena? Let's get the null, getting it all written down. And as you said, while that was all going on, there was a few PhDs that actually stepped forward, and it ended up being a complete embarrassment for them. Being chased, running away with their tails between their legs. Flat Earthers hot on their heels, going, give us a viable hypothesis.
It's good. Yeah. That's a good old days, man. I haven't done that. We haven't done that in a while, right?
I think we used to shout for the pink lettering. It's very powerful, John. The sort of things me and John D, still look at stuff and I think you gave us both, I describe as a kick in the nuts, is when you go back to that. And if you do claim to be a scientist, follow that method. When you do apply it and apply it backwards with everything you've assumed, it is very powerful. I miss the pink lettering, the good old days.
I got some pink lettering right here. Tony Wickham. Thanks for the super chat, man. He said, QE shocking and rocking the truth all over again. You got that right, mister. Thank you very much, sir, for the super chat. Appreciate that. As you know, my studio was working today. It was a crapshoot when we got in, but it's working. So I got to remember to pop back in there and check it out every now and again. Since my co-pilot, my partner in crime's not here, shout out to Betty. She's spending time on vacation again. He sure takes a lot of vacations.
Mic check.
Mic check.
Hey, Chocolate.
What's up, guys?
I'll give you what
Evening, bruv.
the sky.
Usually, yeah.
So when is it not up?
It's not going down that route.
See, I got him compromised already, folks. I got him.
When you're in Australia.
When you're in Australia.
Got relative.
Huey, so I just wanted to get it out the way, if you don't mind.
Quickly.
I want to ask you it without you dismissing it right away. So first, I'm gonna start off. How do they measure the sun from the Earth?
We ain't going down that road. I told you to hold off on that. That's outside of the parameters of this presentation. You can now, when we're done, you can ask that. I'll leave you go, and you can ask your question, whatever about the sun it can be. But we're concentrated just on natural science, not subsets or anything flat Earth. Just for right now. Appreciate that. I want to stay focused. Any comments up to this point? We can rock.
Could just rattle off one quick quote from Professor Phil Bell as he's on screen.
Sure.
He says, Ethan says we assume our... Oh, yes! That hopefully answers the last guy's question. Moving on.
Wait. Now, this really cracks me up right here. Everyone's heard this before, right? As soon as they get backed up right into the corner and they're getting ready to get beat about the head and the shoulders with just a flurry of blows, and they realize it, right? Semantics, this is one of their bagocks, many bagocks, right? There's a few of them. There's, gravity, gravity, refraction, cherry picking, you don't understand, semantics. This one, I don't get it. Who they trying to fool? I guess they're compadres who are Elmer Fudd's, right? Yeah, semantics. Yeah, words. They mean things. This is from an unknown sage right here. Yeah, they got meanings. All right. And specifically in actual science, they have precise meanings. Let me show you something. From Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. Words have precise meanings in science, like she actually needed to say it. Anyone that's been around any actual scientific discipline has had these two words, and Adam, you can back me up on this after I'm done. Accuracy and precision pounded into them to no end. You'd be like, please, okay, uncle, please stop, right? I get the message. Precise meaning. Why does she even have to say this? Why do I even have to bring it up in just, not even in natural science, in just conversation? Right? If we don't define our terms, and I'm not talking about being pedantic, but defining is and, duh. But if we don't define our terms, then we're going to talk past each other. We are not going to communicate. If I'm thinking about apples and you're thinking about orangutans, right? We're going to talk past each other. And if it's going to get heated, people are going to get frustrated, not only the players, but the people out in the audience listening to the discussion. It's just going to circle the drain, right? Everyone knows this. So what you do is you define your terms. And that way communication goes smoothly, right? But they don't want you to do, Baltards aren't going to want you to do that because that stops them from making shit up like we know they do. So yes, we're going to force you to define your terms using the Socratic method. From Nielsen, Peter, natural, synthetic, and artificial, DNA, PNA, and XNA. As in all scientific communication, precise language is essential for giving and receiving messages correctly. Duh! Why do they even have to say it? Right? But they do. Why do I even need to support this? This is a joke. Even the premier pseudoscience, you know what? I can't give her that title. There's many pseudoscientists above her. However, she's still a pseudoscientist, paleontologist. She can't give you a viable scientific hypothesis regarding anything. Can you, Mary? Haven't seen you for a couple years now. Where you been? I digress. So what she says, exactly. That's one of the things I drive my students crazy on. Words count. Words are important. Choose your words carefully. Why? Because she's speaking to precision, to communicate, whether verbally or in text. Right? This is well da, and it's all sponsored by the Socratic method. Sound familiar? Probably not. A method of teaching, this is from Webster's New World College Dictionary. A method of teaching or discussion like that used by Socrates, in which by means of a series of questions and answers, the logical soundness of a definition is tested. The meaning of a concept examined. Right, so we can communicate with each other. Right, so there's no misunderstandings. So there's no miscommunications. Everyone's on the same sheet. So whenever you hear semantics, you can just start laughing. They've already lost to anyone that's graduated junior high, right? You've already lost. If that's all you got, your little one word, you're finished. All right, any quick comments on that?
Socratic method. It should be the second nature of anybody.
Yep.
Everybody.
Yep.
We take it one step further when we were discussing earlier about the trying to tie them down to what they're claiming as a phenomena, what they're claiming as the cause, what's their null, and they'd often change that. You know, let alone changing the word. I mean, that's one step further along the line. They'll literally, they'll give you a word that hasn't been defined and use that word that hasn't been defined as a claim phenomena, only later to substitute it for the cause. They've got words that are undefined being used as causes. It's just nuts how far they'll go.
Yes, sir.
I do that with everything now. So thanks, man. People find it very annoying. You try to get Socratic with everything. But yeah, we need to know what the hell we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Be specific to me.
Yeah.
So thanks for that. Yep.
I hear that a lot. That what you mean?
Yeah, man.
You mentioned at the beginning that I'd echo that, John. Yeah, it's crucial, and everything you do professionally to be accurate in what you mean, for what you mean to have a definitive meaning, particularly in medicine. It has to mean something very specific. And I think it was last week, I was on the debates, and Issa came in and he was talking to ballers and having gravity meaning weight. I was talking with them by the point with chocolate. It's important. You can't proceed in a conversation with somebody where gravity means weight. But it is important to be Socratic, both professionally, but we're going to discuss these things. You can't be having chats with ballers where suddenly one word can suddenly magically mean something else. That's kind of what they do a little bit in some of their trickery as well, isn't it? Is have multiple meanings.
Yes. Yeah, it's called equivocation. Now, words have what you would call a semantic range. And it's usually based on the context that they're in. Now, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole too much. This is pretty much intuitive to most people, right? But there's not too many occasions that words have completely antithetical meanings when you change their context. I can think of 0. So,
1.
Go ahead.
This was argued about for ages in the chat. It was off the back of a red herring obfuscation technique by Rumpus. So, acceleration,
Oh,
right, depending on the
God.
context, can mean deceleration, which is a form of acceleration. So in certain contexts, acceleration could mean deceleration. By the fact that contextually, if you phrased it differently, deceleration would be the antithesis of acceleration. One of those where, depending on the context, it can have a very different meaning. I'll also add that earlier in this, you said that you don't have to get down to the nitty-gritty of what "and" means and so on. Well, sometimes you do. It's not being pedantic because, this will make sense, when you've got somebody that's defined something loosely like gravity, then they substitute their loosely defined term, gravity, for it. So they'll start using the word it because it makes it slightly distanced from their loosely defined word that was being used specifically to mean something that isn't necessarily the application that they're going to be using. They'll substitute gravity for it. It makes things go down, go boom, boom. It's easier to skirt away from than the loosely defined gravity word with its specific 2 meanings. Just to make things more confusing.
Yeah, the one I can think of that's most, but it's not a good example, is theory. Theory is not scientific theory. Even though it has the word theory in common, scientific theory is completely different. So that's not an antithetical meaning, right? They're 2 different, one's a term, one's a phrase, just to make sure that's clear. And that's the only
Hypothesis
time.
also.
Good.
Hypothesis also gets used in the same way, though, doesn't it? So,
Yes.
You know, across a murder scene, what's your hypothesis? Meaning, what's your estimation, your best guess?
Yep.
Well, contextually, actually identical to a scientific hypothesis. It's your best guess, your supposition of cause. But contextually, when you say hypothesis in the framework of science, it's hyper-specific what you mean.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah. I hypothesize or I theorize more or less in that vein, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
If you asked
feel-
me to hypothesize how long the show would be, there'd be nothing empirical in
Right.
the answer that I'd give you.
Right. Exactly. What about, back to the point, because I knew as soon as I said those 2 phrases that would catch Adam's ear. How about these 2 phrases? How many times have you heard these, Adam? Accuracy and precision.
Oh God, yeah. first year at uni, like in chemistry classes, it's just titration after titration. Do you know what I mean? And it's all about instilling that, not showing you just the technique, but exactly that every time you do something.
Yeah.
Very repetitive.
I knew those 2 would catch your ear. I was
Why
almost
there's a union bar?
I was almost at the point of saying, just shut up. I got it. But I knew why they had to do it. So I forgive them for that. Hey, shout out to Eagle Plane and Anchorman. Thanks a lot, Matt, for the super chat. Appreciate that, sir.
What you've just witnessed as an audience member is 2 scientists discussing their frustrations and understanding their and found, you know, their unwavering understanding about accuracy and precision, which is the the stark enemy of globe belief, which requires doublespeak and contradiction, you know, the complete opposite of what science requires. Now, in this context at the moment, we're talking about words and their meanings. That was the last section of the presentation. And we're saying words have specific meanings. That also directly links to science. If you're going to be using a word in description in a hypothesis, then it must be specific. It must be rigorously defined. If it isn't, then it's useless because it's then open to interpretation. Must be specific. Now, like I say, you're a globe believer. What have you got? You've got things like gravity, where they've got two completely different meanings that seem to be running concurrently, even though one superseded the other. They're defined in maths, not science. They don't have any physical phenomena. They've got to work around these things with doublespeak, not being specific.
I would say that's the main reason why we went from the body of science to science doesn't prove things anymore, because we've held them to task on these words and what they mean. Because all we did was say, could we see some of that science you got? What you got? And the story changed drastically. So, yeah.
What you mean? What you mean?
What you mean, bro?
Hold on, don't joke about this. I opened with this. This was my opening to the show, Chocolate, and I couldn't agree more. It's extremely important that we don't brush past this and got to be laboured. This understanding needs to be stressed because it's where we've been hoodwinked. And if you understand it, you can call foul on it. Don't understand it, you're going to get swindled. It's just that simple. It's important that we all get a really good grips. And the way the audience recognises this, if you've been in the game, Earth game that is, for a while, you'll know this to be true. When we started the argument or the debate, or when I started Flat Earth debate, what we heard, Chocolate's correctly identified, is a body of science proves on a sphere, or science proves the radius, or science proves Earth curve. A whole multitude of other rattle off a list of science proves it. Well, a reification fallacy was identified by Quantum Eraser. Science doesn't have lips, it doesn't talk, it's not your friend, Adam. And
Science is my friend, I'll tell you.
Best friend ever.
Bestest ever. Yeah.
Your besties.
It's a method, and if they have applied the method, then they've got science. And the reason they use the words is because the method is empirical. So at the end of the methodology, on application or actualization of a hypothesis, you have an empirical outcome. And that's so powerful. Now, the reason they probably taught us at a very early age is so we understood implicitly that it's an empirical outcome. You know, at some level, it's buried in your brain that science proves things. It can later move you into a different classroom and go, right, let's look at these lights in the sky. We say they're this, that, and the other. And this is science, right? Because it says it above the door of the classroom. Right? So at some level, they're going to hijack this science method that is empirical in terms of its outcome upon actualization of hypothesis and attribute their just so stories to this methodology when they haven't actually adhered to it. So knowing that they've gone from science is what our proof is for the sphere to science doesn't prove anything. And the reality translation of that statement, which they do say now, science doesn't prove anything, or science only disproves things. No, that's complete nonsense. What you had and offered was not science and was often open to change because it wasn't empirically valid. So you alter it. And when you do, you justify it by saying, well, science doesn't really prove anything. Yeah, it absolutely proves things. That's all it does. Upon experimentation, you validate your null or you validate your alternative. You're proving something at the end without question. It's all it does. Oh, if you've got it, you've got something empirical. If you haven't, and you're claiming you have, you've got pseudoscience. And that's what the globe have. Formerly, science proves the globe. Now, science doesn't prove anything. Loosely translated, our pseudoscience used to claim globe doesn't prove anything.
Exactly. You got it. Now, the The biggest thing with the semantics thing, number one, it stops you from making stuff up. And number two, it prevents equivocating. That is using more than two definitions for a single term in a single argument. See, that's what it stops. So I just wanted to stress that before we moved on. But everything you said, Nathan, is exactly right. They changed their story. We got a lot of story changing going on. Wonder why. So let's get with it. Science, right? From scientia, science, scio, basically to know or knowledge. Nothing wrong with that. That's what the word means. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about natural science in this genre, right? According to the bald-tarred boneheads, it's science proves. What they said was, this is what I first heard when I initially came out here, is that if you're a flat earther, if you believe in the flat earth, that you must deny all of science and all of physics. Now, I'm not going to ask the panel members for how many times they heard that. You still hear it today, right? So we've all heard that before. So now we're going to hold your feet to the fire. And we've been doing that for the past 4 years. So natural science is our genre. I put two definitions here just for a compare and contrast, right? Let's go with Cambridge. Cambridge, natural science. Subjects such as biology, physics, and chemistry in which things that can be seen in nature are studied. Now, there's a couple things here that I want to point out. Number one, they identify biology, physics, and chemistry, right? Where's everyone else? Paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, right? Where are all those guys? Astronomy, astrophysics, why aren't they in here? Cosmology, they're not in here. Why didn't they put them in here? Well, because they know they're not. Right? Now, this definition is, I would say, incorrect with its vagueness. Because it's just saying things that can be seen in nature, la, 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 that are studied. No. This is actually incorrect. The second definition is correct. Oxford Dictionary. So Oxford, one up to you. Natural science. The intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment. You see how complete this is? As opposed to this. This is too vague and arbitrary. It's just too general. So that one shoots out the window. It just doesn't do it for us. Right? Why? From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, the scientific method distinguishes science from other forms of explanation because of its requirement of systematic experimentation. Right? That is very precise. If you don't have that, then you don't have that. And of course, you don't have that. And if we go back up here to this definition, right? Natural science, it doesn't mention anything about experiment. How could you do that? Studied is a pretty general term, right? What does that even mean? They looked at some text or something? Read it twice? Yeah. Too ambiguous, too generalized. This is incorrect, right? I've peppered this a number of times through this presentation. I call it Pepperidge Farms because you need to remember this. It's a very important one right here. To be natural science, you must have experiment, period. From Michael Crichton, testimony before the U.S. Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. Science is nothing more than a method of inquiry. Huh. Notice he didn't say methods of inquiry. Method. Singular. Back to Crichton again. From his transcript of Caltech, there is no such thing as consensus science. If it's consensus, it isn't science. If it's science, it isn't consensus. Period. Pretty emphatic about that. Why? Well, because consensus is one of the main tools of actual religion. all our priests agree with each other. What? Then it must be true. No. That's the exact antithesis of science and the scientific method. That's why it was created, to get away from that. From the Law Dictionary, scientific evidence, the testing of a hypothesis or theory that is objective and in a controlled environment. You see any equations, models, gummy bears, or pictures up in this mug? Huh? Well, there's a reason why they're not mentioned here, right? Because they don't apply. They are not scientific evidence. Scientific evidence comes from validation empirically via the scientific method. And what is that? Like I said, I seen this on my 5th grade general science chalkboards back in the day. And it was, how would I say, indelible. It just burned it right in my retina. Right? I wasn't really into science back then. I was more interested in the playground. However, it left an impression on me. And probably because it was part of my destiny. Right? But I remember it like it was yesterday. So, I have 7 steps here. I highlighted, bolded, enlarged 3 of them because those are the indispensable steps. You can't have natural science, you can't have the scientific method without those 3. I'm not saying the other ones like literature review, analyze data, validate and invalidate hypothesis, report results, those are more administrative and logistical. I am not saying they're not important, and I'm not saying they're not used. I want to get down to the brass tacks and not quibble over these, right? But they are very important. But you have the big 3. You got them right there. I hope that burns into your retina. This first step gives you the dependent variable. The independent variable is added to the construct formal hypothesis, and the control variables are added to the independent dependent variable from step 3. Simple as that. Controls are constants. Now, let's go to Professor Wolf's over there, University of Rochester Physics Department, or Physics Labs. He has a lot of good information on this website. No doubt about it. But there's a lot of falsehoods also on the site. There was a time where I got sick of it, reading through all of the half-truths. He'd put some things as true and add on the other things that are not true, like he did here. We'll go over that here in a second. And so I decided to contact him. Contacted his secretary. Of course, then he was on vacation, and she promised me that he'd get back with me. Very, very nice secretary. I talked to her on a few occasions, but Professor Wolf's never got back with me. Probably because somebody called him up and said I was a flat earther. Scott Veach. You PhD Booker-eating schmuck. Yeah, I know you did. Clown. That's all right, Professor Wolf's. That doesn't recuse you from the train wrecks here. So I'm going to go through these, right? And then we'll circle back. So the scientific method has 4 steps. Now, he put it as 4. Well, what did he do? He subtracted the logistical steps out of it, right? That's all he did. No big deal. I don't have a problem with it. I do have other problems with this. So, 1, observation and description of a phenomenon or group of phenomena. That lines up with our natural phenomena observed up in step 1, the dependent variable. Number 2, formulation of a hypothesis to explain phenomena. You should have stopped right there, right? Even this is incorrect, like I identified the last time. We'll get back to that. I'll circle back. In physics, the hypothesis often takes the form of a causal mechanism or a mathematical relation. Number 3, use of the hypothesis to predict the existence of other phenomena or to predict quantitatively the results of new observations. And number 4, performance of experimental tests of the predictions by several independent experimenters in properly performed experiments. Right? Pretty succinct, but incorrect. Number 1 is correct. Number 2, in fact, is wholly wrong. I didn't redline this. Maybe before the next presentation, I'll redline it. I'm going to show you why. Formulation of a hypothesis to explain the phenomena. Hypotheses don't explain anything. Hypotheses, scientific hypotheses, are suppositions of natural cause and effect relationships. They don't explain anything. The explanation comes from the conclusion in the next step experiment. So, in fact, this is incorrect. This is most assuredly incorrect. The hypothesis often, this word often, takes the form of a causal mechanism. Nope. Always. The dependent variable is the effect. The independent variable is the cause. You can't have a hypothesis without an independent and dependent variable. So they are all cause and effect relationships. It has nothing whatsoever to do with a mathematical relationship to anything. You don't find equations floating around in nature, Professor Wolfs. Duh. In fact, it's non sequitur. The whole thing is non sequitur, number 2. Number 3 is also non sequitur. The use of hypothesis to predict the existence of other phenomena, this is Mystic Meg stuff. You're not doing any of this. And this quantitatively, a scientific hypothesis is the exact opposite wholly, because the hypothesis is solely qualitative. That is, it either causes the effect or it doesn't. Period. That's how it's only qualitative. Very simple. There's no secret knowledge here. Right? It just follows logically. And number 4 is correct. Performance of experimental tests of the predictions from the hypothesis, by the way, by several independent experimenters and properly performed experiments. That's correct. So, if you boil these all down, guess what they look like? My 3. Right? That's what they look like. Still waiting on you, Professor Wolfs. Listen, we got some openings on the panel. You can come on in here, tell us how many degrees you got, how many publications and stuff, and then we'll get to cases. Okay? The scientific method. You see that D right there? It's not followed by an S, which makes it singular. So, ballers, you need to understand the difference between singular and plural with your methods. Okay? From Anne-Marie Helmstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences. The number of steps varies from one description to another, like we were talking about before. Mainly when data and analysis are separated into a separate step. But this is fairly standard list of 6. She's got 6 scientific method steps, which are you are expected to know before any science class, right? You're expected to know this. Not in the science class. Like I said, at university, the scientific method was never mentioned. Not once. I can't remember it. Why? Because I already knew it. You had to know it to be in discipline. Right? If you didn't know it, it would be like, I don't know even how to put this in a framework. If you didn't know what the scientific method was in an actual scientific discipline, it would never happen. You wouldn't even get into class. They wouldn't even accept you into the school. So that would never happen. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. Right? So, like I said, she says 6 scientific method steps. It really doesn't matter. She's probably, like, she pulled out data and analysis, right? She didn't talk about literature review up here, which you have to do. All right? So, it doesn't make it a different method. You don't have different methods because somebody has 6, another has 4, another has 3. Right? Just being pedantic idiots. So, in summary, the king of the scientific method is experiment. It's birthed from the queen, hypothesis, which is birthed from the first step of the scientific method, observe a natural phenomena. The critical, indispensable steps, we can boil it down right here. If your method doesn't have observe a natural phenomena, where you get your dependent variable, formulation of a hypothesis, where the supposition is just juxtaposed between the effect and the independent variable, if you don't have those two, and the experiment, where the control variables or constants are added, then you don't have the scientific method. You just don't. That's it. You don't have a banana. You cannot have science that is natural science without these 3. Can't do it. 66% of the experiment is the hypothesis. 50% of the hypothesis is natural phenomena observed. Period. End of story. And remember, little Pepperidge Farms from Professor Wolfs. Shout out to Professor Wolfs. This is an outstanding statement, by the way, and exactly correct. The scientific method distinguishes science. It distinguishes it. It sets it apart from other forms of explanation. Why? Well, because of its requirement. See, it's required. That means you must have it. Systematic experimentation, baby. You got to have it. You can't have science or the scientific method. You can't have this guy. See, can't have that. And you can't have that without that. It's as simple as that. It's as plain as the nose on your face. All right. Comments, questions?
I wanted to add one more quote from, I think it's from Feynman. If it disagrees with experiment, it's wrong.
Yeah, there's not a lot of ways to interpret the word wrong, is there?
What would he say if there wasn't any experiment at all?
You can't prove it. Tom, if you just go to Scott Veitch's methodology, you kind of mentioned it was obvious that they didn't teach you the scientific method at university. Well, I did A-level psychology, and what I do remember from back a long time ago was them taking time to explain to us that this wasn't science, in terms of we were still using a hypothesis, we're still rejecting or accepting nulls, but they went to great pains that it was not science. This was statistical based and, not science, put simply, and therefore the way we use the hypothesis is slightly different as well. With that in mind, it was just with regards to Scott Veitch, he made a little disclaimer, I think at point 2. It'll be on the screen now.
Oh, that wasn't M. Scott Veitch. That was Professor Wolf's at the University of Rochester Physics Labs. M. Scott Veitch called him and told him that I was a flat earther. So,
what I was going to say was it says in physics, and then relates to the mathematics and that.
Hold on a second. I'll pull it up for you. There you go.
Wait for the lag. It was just something like in physics.
You had to call him up to tell him you're a flat earther. Nervous much? Cornballs.
What does that mean, Chocolate? He's on to us. He's on to us.
Wait a second. This isn't a speculation either. M. Scott Veitch, do you remember telling me that you were going to do that exact thing before it happened? PhD booger-eating schmuck. You remember that? I do. Carry on.
He recently came by my comments to check how much, quote unquote, damage we were doing. He's very concerned with that. Sent you the screenshots. It was quite telling.
Go ahead, Adam. You should see it now.
It says number 2, formulation of a hypothesis to explain the phenomena. In physics, the hypothesis often takes the form of a causal mechanism or a mathematical. To me, when you first read that out, it was like one of those, when you listen to ballers and you're looking for the half truth, the little bit, because the statement all makes sense, but there's always something that means it's not quite true. And here, to me, because it is true, but you have to put the word theoretical in front of physics. Because that, I was saying, in terms of psychology, you had to do a perversion to the scientific method to give that little bit of empiricism to what you were investigating. You recognised it wasn't science, and to me, that's what's happening here. It's not in physics. This does not happen. You don't do this in physics in the science, because you can use the scientific method in physics. In theoretical physics, you can't, because you're not going to vary anything. Yeah. So what you have to do is look for these causal relationships. Don't mean anything, like psychology. Yeah. Which is a causal mechanism or a mathematical relation. And then later, even further, where they're saying the last point, to predict quantitative results of new observations. That seems to be one of the biggest things that I fell for back in the day. Even medically, things that we fall for. That this because we can predict something means that somehow our understanding is correct. That is a huge mugging off, and a huge way that the ballers validate and use cogniz to hold it. Because it can predict, it must be correct. And pull it to chemistry, as I've always said, chemistry predicts beautifully. Doesn't mean an atom
that why
for it as.
Is that why these are in red? Or was I looking at this before?
Yeah, I put them in red because they're incorrect. In fact, I'm going to make this.
So I'm reading them right now, and I'm like, what's that about?
Yeah. Let's do some. I'll just change it now. That's incorrect.
He's going to highlight the lot.
I should just highlight the whole darn thing, but. Too funny. Yeah. All right. We good?
Yeah,
I got that off me chest.
Yeah, it's bogus. It's bollocks. All right, well, let's get to the first step. We're not going to go through every step, but let's get to the first step and figure out what that is, right? So, from The Nature of Science and the Scientific Method, from Kristen McClellan, the first process in the scientific method involves observation of a phenomena, event, or a problem. Now, I've heard people take this and start to give me some mental gymnastics with this. I think this is a little bit more, it's too vague, is what the quote-unquote problem is here. But just be careful with this, because it has to be a natural phenomena. I don't know what you mean by problem. That's more, it's more subjective. What is an event? That's a phenomena, right? So you're basically saying the same thing again. I'll just keep a weathered eye in that direction. Let's go back to Professor Wolf's. Back up to the first step that he gave us above. Observation and description of a phenomenon or group of phenomena. This is slam dunk stuff, man. You need the dependent variable. You need the effect. If you're going to make a hypothesis, you need that half. The effect. Right? You can't get around it. You can't conjure a phenomena. You can't imagine one. What are you going to do? What's going to be your independent variable? Your imagination? Your eyelids? I mean, that's preposterous, right? Once you break this down, a second grader can figure this out. Oh, and remember, Niels Bohr told you, no phenomenon is a phenomenon unless it is an observed phenomena. See how it ties in to the scientific method? Thanks a lot, Niels. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, because you know what it meant. Right? You got to observe that phenomenon, baby. Like I said, it's not ask a question. See, science buddies. See, that's what they do. That's when you know you're getting pretender clowns, right? Because what they did was they typed in the scientific method into a search engine, and guess what pops up on the first choice, especially in the images. You know what pops up? Science buddies. And their first step is ask a question, right? That's not the first step of the scientific method. Professor Wolf's, is this the first step? You said observation of a phenomena. I agree with that. That's what you need. Kristen McClellan, first step of observation of phenomena. But this has ask a question. That's not the same thing. Because let's ask a question. Are baltards morons? That's a question, right? Is that a scientific question? Is that available for scientific inquiry? It's a question. So, it's not ask a question, science buddies. Get your act together. Also, it's not observe concrete nouns. Trees, rocks, shoes, especially the last one where it's not a natural phenomenon. We'll get to that in a second. You can't do that. Because what's your hypothesis going to be? It's not a phenomenon. It's a concrete noun. So you got trees. Okay. Trees is your independent variable. What caused trees? Let's say it's a tree in my backyard. Okay, tree. What caused that tree? I don't know. That thing was growing here. A seed, right? We all know that, but that's duh. I'm not talking about that. I mean, I moved in here in 2007, but that tree was already there. So what am I going after here? Nothing. I'm chasing the wind. In fact, it's non sequitur to use a concrete noun. And like I said, it's not conjure phenomena. All these are conjurings. Black holes, dark matter, multiverses, singular. Well, this one comes from a comic book, 1940s. Right? So you got to give it that, right? You can see how these aren't viable dependent variables. You're not testing any of these things, any of these effects, any of these conjurings, except by your imagination. That's all you're doing. So all this is bunk. The first step of the scientific method is observe a phenomena. It's well da, right? Everyone knows this. So let's get into this. This is one of my favorites. Natural, right? This ebbs and flows. I've heard this the other day. No, in fact, I heard it yesterday. Everything is natural. That's what I heard from a baller, of course. Really, let's see. Let's go with Merriam-Webster, natural world. All of the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature and not made or caused by people. I don't think he was correct then, because I see a lot of things made by people all around me. So everything can't be natural then. From Oxford Dictionary's natural, existing in or derived from nature, not made or caused by humankind. It's a repeating refrain, isn't it? I think they got something here. Natural, something that comes from nature, rather than, as opposed to, being man-made. And lastly, from Cambridge, from nature, not artificial or involving anything made or caused by people. So we got some consistency here. Wouldn't you say? This is common sense. Everyone knows this. I mean, everyone that's not a baller knows this. Don't get it. As opposed to synthetic. The antonym of synthetic, the opposite of it, is natural, by the way. So what is synthetic? Well, from Merriam-Webster, man-made, manufactured, created, or constructed by human beings. Specifically, synthetic. That's what synthetic is. See, this is the huckleberry right here for you, baltards. You and everything's natural. Listen to this closely. We heard the first statement above from this citation. We're going to go through the rest of it. From Nielsen Peter, natural, synthetic, and artificial. Listen closely from DNA, PNA, and XNA. As in all scientific communication, precise language, boy, we heard that before, is essential for giving and receiving messages correctly. Thus, artificial would generally mean something not found in nature, and synthetic would mean something that is man-made. To make a chemistry analogy, chemically synthesized B12 vitamin would not be considered artificial, as it is chemically, analytically, and functionally indistinguishable from naturally isolated B12 vitamin. Here comes the punchline. But it is not natural either. That is obtained from nature. It is synthetic. Oh, baltards. You have some splaining to do. You're a grown adult and can't reconcile the difference between synthetic and natural. You got big problems. At a fundamental level. At a Mr. Magoo level, you got fundamental problems right here. That's your huckleberry right there. I don't even need these, do I? No, I don't. So they're ad hoc, feebly conjured, made-up bollocks. The only choices are natural and supernatural, QE. Well, this is a belly laugher. Then it's pummeled into the incoherent oblivion. Point of order, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. That's who everyone is out there. The difference between natural and synthetic can be reconciled in less than 2 friggin' seconds by any semi-coherent fourth grader. Would you like to challenge me on that? I don't think you should. So now that we've identified 2 categories, natural and synthetic, that is man-made, are there any commonalities between these 2 guys? Of course there are. Each has one or more of the following: chemical formula and structure, charge, matter, momentum, or spin, or millielectron volts, kcals, or kilojoules. What I'm talking about here is matter and, wait for it, it's coming, energy. Matter and energy. Get it? The actual situation is a trichotomy. Natural versus synthetic versus supernatural. So natural, like we discussed above, all the animals, plants, and other things existing in nature and not made or caused by people. Synthetic, anything man-made. Supernatural, above nature. Natural, immaterial, without matter or energy. So it's outside these 2 that we just identified. Do they exist? I don't know. These exist. Supernatural, information, time, and thoughts. There is no matter and energy in here. However, they do exist. I'm telling you. And we have physical and natural opposed to man-made, right? Physical and natural, just like how it sounds. Trees, water, light, frogs, and sulfur. Man-made, Cheerios, barbecue grills, shoes, headphones, and Indy cars. You see the difference between these 2? And these 2. And these 2. Little crossover here between supernatural and man-made. We don't need to get into that. But the big guys are these 2. Right? I don't find barbecue grills down near the wood line. Anywhere near the wood line, through the wood line, circling back on the wood line. Unless somebody throw the old rusty one out there. Nature's not making these, right? Because nature is inanimate. It's not sentient. It can't reason. It has no functional sequence specified complexity. All right? I want to burn that in the retinas. That's my mission here. Is it burning in yet? After 3 presentations of it? Maybe. The points. No synthetic. Hey, a lot of baltards screw this up. You straw man our argument because you don't understand it. Right? We'll get to the straw man. No synthetic man-made object can enter the scientific method as the observed natural phenomena, the dependent variable, that is, the effect, because every cause of man-made effects is, wait for it, friggin' man. Right? So what do they say? Well, what do you mean? We can't conduct experiments with man-made stuff? No, I didn't say that. Listen closely. The dependent variable, that is the effect, cannot be man-made. Every experiment is man-made. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the dependent variable. The effect cannot be man-made. It's a well-duh. Number 2, physics, that is quantum mechanics, chemistry, biochemistry, genetics, and biology are what? Synthetic or natural sciences? Now, there's a caveat here. And I should have highlighted them. Chemistry and biology. Now I'm going to get some blowback from Adam, but he's going to have to agree with me after I talk about this. We'll touch on biology. Just the other day, I told a person, the biologist, you'll be hearing him again shortly. I told the biologist that parts of biology are not scientific, right? Namely, and I can name hundreds of them, the taxonomic classification system. That's just human beings creating conventions. There's no science in that. You can't give me the hypothesis or the taxonomic classification system. That's non sequitur, right? However, some parts of biology are science. Those parts that are scientific must be validated by experiment. Now, chemistry also. A big part of chemistry is synthetic chemistry, right? That's not going to fall into natural. It's just not. So there's the differentiation there, right? You have to take each subject. It's got to be hyper-specific and then drill down. And it's real easy to tell if it's natural or if it's not. If you're talking about sugar substitutes, well, that's chemistry, right? However, those are synthesized. They're man-made. So they don't fall in the scientific method. They can't. It's just that simple. Number 3, natural science deals with the natural world, which is evaluated and assessed via the scientific method through hypothesis testing. Here comes some more Pepperidge Farm. Thanks, Professor Wolfs. Remember, the scientific method distinguishes science. That means it sets it apart from other forms of explanation. Why? Well, because of its requirement. That means you must have systematic experimentation. That is, if you don't have this, if it distinguishes it from other forms of explanation and you don't have it, then you don't have that. And you don't have that. You see how I did that? See how I circled back on it? Comments, questions up to this point?
It's good having people over a barrel by asking them to define synthetic. It used to be the case that we just said, define what natural means. But there's a few people in the comments that were saying, well, man isn't natural. But man is natural. You know, medicine, study of phenomena within man, that's very much a natural thing, right? It's just whether or not they've actually manufactured the thing. So a few examples of that, I think we've got filet mignon and honey, and there's a few others. But you know, where you've got something that you can't, you know, its name only says how natural it is, and you don't have to have the thing that it has come from to know that it was in existence. You know, the antecedent being a bee or a cow.
Man,
Can I?
hold on a second. Man didn't cause man. He didn't manufacture man. Man didn't do that, right? It's one of those blind things, you know, that we do in reproduction. You're not consciously and intently building a man or a woman. You're not doing that. It's non sequitur. Go on, Arwen.
We covered this a couple of shows ago. It's the difference between, and it was Arwen that brought it up from memory. I'll let you go in a second, Arwen. I'm sorry. It's the difference between production and reproduction.
Oh, good point.
Right, who was the original producer, right? Yeah, but it's a funny analogy could be the difference between Frankenstein, a natural human being, and Frankenstein's monster, a man-made construction from grafted materials. The big difference. Right?
I was going to give a slightly different analogy, but same point really. I was going to say, use science to learn a lot of what we know about insulin, for example, and natural science. However, the way we treat it nowadays is to take the DNA strand, use recombinant DNA technology, stick it into a bacterium, get it to produce it synthetically. The same thing, the same protein molecule that we had, but that's what we use to treat medically. I wouldn't call that natural.
Just on a side note, hey Ed, that name fits you, bud.
Right.
Just while we're on track on this particular subject as well of natural, so all of the things I think so far that we've named are actually concrete nouns, and what we're studying is never going to be something, just a thing, a table, honey, you know, steak. It's phenomena that we're studying, things occurring, things happening, because the whole idea is for you to come across an occurrence and go, oh, I wonder what caused that to happen, right? Not concrete nouns. Tree. What caused tree? Well, that's not a phenomena. What caused the leaves to fall off the tree? That's a different story.
Precisely.
Right. Because in nature, everything forms naturally. But if a man starts to intervene all man-made devices are usually grafted together from natural materials, and then it's made into a man-made separate thing. Now, that man-made separate thing may have certain phenomenon in it, but it's not a natural phenomenon because it's grafted together. So it would have to just naturally be able to arrive within nature in order to be a natural phenomenon.
Perfect.
Oh,
Exactly. That's
I like-
that's a crucial detail that Owen's bringing up, because that's where the swindle comes in. So, sorry, Adam, to cut you off. But yeah, just to reiterate what Owen's making as his point, and you've got things that are claimed to be science, they're often associated with very unnatural phenomena. For example, but not limited to, gyroscopes, pendulums, etc., etc., etc. Lazy Susan with lasers on it. These sorts of things are often asserted to be science, and it's like, well, what are you actually studying? What's the thing you've stumbled across in nature and gone, I wonder what causes that? Because if it isn't occurring in nature, then it's not a phenomena. It's not a phenomena unless you've actually seen something happening, not something that you've constructed to make something happen, and then you go, I wonder what caused that to happen. Well, you know the answer. Man made it.
That was the same point, Nathan. I was going to ask more sarcastically. But basically, if I was to take two balls, torsion bar, and get a shed somewhere in a field, whatever I observed with those things, however I combined them, couldn't be classed as a phenomena.
Exactly. You drop a ball from a tall tower, never going to be an observed phenomena capable of sciencing.
How about a stone rolling off a hill? That could occur in nature, right?
That's a phenomena. Anything happening, it's got to be happening, and cause can't be you making it happen. It's just that simple, because you know the cause. Anything synthetic, or if it's synthetic, like balls in a shed, what's the cause? Well, a man made it. By definition, that's what synthetic means. That's why I said at the beginning, well, after QE finished his presentation, or this section of it, that's a crucial detail to get people to justify, or define rather, the beginning of the argument. Well, what does synthetic mean? Well, made by man. Well, is this thing we're observing made by man? Yeah, but that's okay, because men are natural. Therefore, this is natural. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah. Got it. All right, we ready?
What question, John?
Go ahead.
Just one before we move on. What am I classified as? Am I made by man? Or am I a natural phenomena?
You're
Not a
made by
phenomenon, but you are natural.
you're made by man and woman.
Well, his physical body may be natural, but his mind, I'm sure, is made by man.
Yeah, let me take that back, because like I said in the beginning, and like they said, that was a really good point. Reproduction, right? The re part. There's an inherent problem with that. Man doesn't intend, he's not manufacturing himself. Neither is woman. That's the important point of this, right? It's a mindless process. It's enjoyable, but it's mindless, right? Somebody put that in. Go ahead.
Breeders find that when they crossbreed certain animals, they become sterile. In other words, they're no longer capable of reproduction. Anyway, lovely. People are natural. We are natural, right? And there's a whole field studying the phenomena that us as natural beings experience, right? Adam's very much a part of that.
Yeah.
Well, that is science. It is phenomena. Men are natural. Me making a Swiss watch and going, what makes it tick? That's nonsense.
Yes. In a natural science context, it's nonsense. Now, you can still do it. It's real cool, but it's just not natural science. All right, we ready?
Mhm.
Any more comments? Go ahead, Chocolate. You had something to say?
Yeah. When you were talking about first step, the scientific method before, when we were talking about observation of phenomenon, event, or, and you have it in quotes too, problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you said that people could be kind of squirrely with that.
Yes.
Well, I just want to point out because somebody did recently try to be a little squirrely with that and try to assert that problem to mean a mathematical problem.
Yeah.
Like we could see the observation of the phenomena in geometry.
Really?
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So that's them being squirrely. Good catch. Yeah, I looked at that and I said, yeah, that has a wide berth because it's so general. We don't want to remain general. We got to be specific. Yep.
What was a point, John? I was thinking, I mentioned earlier about them sticking theoretical physics in, and in that theoretical physics, there's something where you looked at orbits, etc., and there was a problem. The maths doesn't work. There's not enough mass in the universe. So their phenomena is there's not enough mass in the universe. So off they go with that as their phenomena and take that actually as something to then do further maths on, explain what could be there to fill the void in the problem in the first place. But that is their, and for me, that's the question I'm asking. Is that actually what they're doing? They're taking that void to observe phenomena.
Could they define mass first for us, please?
I know that, yeah.
It's like they created their own problem and then saw the problem as an observed phenomenon that they now need to science the shit out of.
Well, that's what they did, didn't they? Look, that's why we've got dark matter, because the maths they had didn't work. So the thing they then moved on to investigate is the hole in the maths. Not actually a real thing, just the thing that disproved the thing they believed in the first place. So that's surely what they're taking as their phenom there and then working from there. We've got this dark matter. It has to exist because our maths is right in the first place. So that's our phenomena. Now we'll do some further mathematical experimentation on that hole that we've identified. To me, is
it has to exist because mass is right in the first place.
Did you say mathematical experimentation?
Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do in theoretical physics.
Yep.
It was in air quotations, John.
Oh, I
did hold my fingers up as I said it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we ready to roll? All right. So let's keep it simple. We want to find out if a subject is even available for scientific inquiry. So I came up with a simple two-step algo. So step one, and I'm going to go into the reasons why just beneath it. And then I'll show a couple examples from the Baltar community. Step number one is the inquiry concerning nature or B, man-made object. Well, if it's B, then it isn't a valid scientific inquiry. We already went over the reasons why for that. If it's A, we'll continue to the second step, and I'm going to explain this a little further. Step two, is the inquiry a cause and effect how I question, or B, a what is question? If it's B right here, then it isn't a valid scientific inquiry. And we'll get into the reasons why right now. Because a scientific hypothesis is your experiment statement. It expresses a testable proposed cause and effect relationship, not a what or it is existing. A cause and effect relationship, not if a tree's existing. No. This is for you ballers. Listen to this from one of your highest priests, John Carroll. He even got this right. Sometimes they can talk the talk, they definitely can't walk the walk. But he puts it right here for you. From nature.com, California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll arguing in the edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They are the whole point. So you can't have science without that. That's what he's saying. And what is that? I gave my definition up here, so let's support what that is. A scientific hypothesis. From Lowell C., becoming a successful scientist from Cambridge University Press. A scientific hypothesis is based on cause and effect reasoning. A scientific hypothesis does not merely state X and Y may be related, but explains why they are related. Right? There's no what or an is reasoning up here. That isn't even reasoning. It's cause and effect reasoning. From Drexel University, the scientific method is hypothesis-driven. One makes an educated guess to explain what? A cause and effect relationship. Must have something to do with the independent-dependent variables. I'm thinking that has something to do with it. From Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences, a hypothesis is an educated guess based on observation. It's a prediction of cause and effect. From California State Scientific Hypothesis, a special kind of prediction that forecasts how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. See, I knew it had something to do with that. The cause, independent variable. See the connection? The effect, dependent variable. Like a glove. From North Carolina State, or the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. In an experiment, the independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher, and the dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. The IV is the antecedent, whereas the DV is the consequent. Right? Very simple. Right? It's hand in glove. Cause and effect, independent, dependent variable, over. Must be cause and effect reasoning. Nothing else can fit in an actual scientific hypothesis. Can't do it. So, are these valid scientific inquiries? So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Now, people on the panel, you're not going to be able to hear this, right? But that's okay. Don't worry about it. The audience will. And I've written them out. So it's real short, about a minute, right? So let's see what they have to say.
I've got a very simple example. Very simple example. We want to study whether salmon go back to the same spot. So what we do is we're going to tag a whole load of salmon. Yeah, and we're going to monitor those salmon, and we're going to monitor their return back into the shallows. Yeah, and then we can say, okay, they are definitely coming back to this location. What independent variable have I manipulated?
Just like if we ask the question, do people get cancer? You could do a study on that. Regardless of what the mechanism of cancer is, we can determine whether people do or do not get cancer, right? Just by doing observation, we could study that and answer that scientific question, whether human beings get cancer. Maybe we want to find out, well, do dogs get cancer the way human beings get cancer?
Okay. So, are these valid scientific inquiries? From Globetard Goober number 1, Druss the Legend, aka Foolish Decisions, or just fool. So he says they're talking about what is or what is not science or available for scientific inquiry, and he puts this up. Right? So, is that a valid scientific inquiry? He says, we want to study whether salmon go back to the same spot they spawned from. Well, let's go ahead and put it through our two-step algo, and then we can tell them, right? So, step number 1 is the inquiry concerning nature. Yes, it's about salmon. It's not B, salmon aren't man-made objects. So we go to step 2. Is the inquiry a cause and effect how-why question, or B, is this a what is question? It's a what is question, isn't it? It can't, therefore, be subject to scientific inquiry. And notice the little trick that he did, right? After he said that, He asked the person he was making the claim to for the independent variable. That's what we're asking you, guy. You're already assuming the very thing you're attempting to prove when you ask somebody else for the independent variable. It's implying, so where's the independent variable? So you're implying that this is already a scientific or valid scientific hypothesis, which it's not. You're begging the question. Without asking a question, by the way. Shout out to Gamma Llama Panda Shamba Dama Ding Dong. Right? You see what he did? That was kind of coy, right? Now, that's what we're asking you. What's your independent variable in here? Well, there's not one because it's a what is question. Therefore, it's not science. Clown show. Globetard Goober number 2 is Jake on the Plane. He had 2 claims that are available for scientific inquiry. Do people get cancer and do dogs get cancer like human beings get cancer? Right? So, again, the two-step algo. Very simple to reconcile and evaluate. Step 1 is the inquiry concerning nature of man-made objects. So, nope, it's cancer, it's nature. Good to go. So, step 2. Is the inquiry cause and effect how I question? Both, or are both what is question? You can answer those questions yourself. Because they're both what is questions. They are not available for scientific inquiry. You see how easy that was? That's how easy it is. So pay attention to the words that are coming out of their mouth, right? And just put the simple 2-step algo to anything that they claim is science. Don't let them throw you like he tried to throw chemo with, where's my independent variable? Yeah, that's what we're asking you, Crayon Muncher, right? Because you can't point one out because it's not science. It's not a hypothesis. Comments, questions?
Sorry, I'm still here. I'm just getting really distracted and back and forth with multiple chats.
Ah.
Somebody brought forth a source that says, oh, look at this. This is a better scientific method. And it says, oh, doesn't matter if it's man-made or not.
Yeah, that's Berkeley.
I digged into it, and I actually checked like the grocery list of who made it, and there were no physicists in the entire thing, not a single one.
That doesn't matter.
It's a good one. Is that the one about smiles? Is that the one I think?
Yes. And sugar subs and smiles. Yes. Yep. Let me just say this before you guys get into it. The citation is not the argument. Often, that's where the argument begins. All citations, essentially, I don't care who they're from, are baseless assertion fallacies, unless they, in that citation, has demonstrated it to be true. This is just common sense, right? Citations aren't the argument, folks. You have to support those citations. Now, if you in a paper post a citation supporting your claims, guess what you're going to have to do if that person that you're citing hasn't proven or demonstrated what they've said? Guess what? You now have to. This is very important. Citation's not the argument. Often that's where the argument begins. Comments, questions?
It's right where this presentation began, so it's down to the semantics of defining what we're going to be talking about. And what we're going to be talking about in this regard is the method of science. We're going to start by talking about how is it going to be set out in theory, colloquially. Now, I use that word intentionally because I'm going to define the difference in a minute. Now, your supposition has to be defined rigorously. All the words that you're going to use in your supposition, that would be a hypothesis, get defined at the early stages. Now, when we're asking for a hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, we're not necessarily asking them to empirically validate that which they write down on paper, as you put it. That's the starting point, defining terms. Now, the end point is the empirically valid bit. It's a baseless assertion if I say Richard Feynman says if it disagrees with the experiment, it's wrong, and what you're saying disagrees with the experiment, therefore it's wrong. Well, that's a baseless assertion, as Quantum Eraser rightly points out. During a presentation about how you've got empirical evidence based on hypothesis-based experimentation, you can then make that statement for Feynman, and it's contextually correct and bolsters our point. In other words, as Quantum Eraser's just pointed out, and I'm just repeating him basically, it's not the argument. If you provide citation, I very rarely, if ever, present any citations for anything because I'm lazy. So I just entirely rely on my argument, how I can phrase it. Normally, I'll weasel my argument in such a manner that I don't have to, because that's what it all boils down to. Your citation might support your argument, but it's not the argument. And in terms of when you're presenting scientific evidence, you present that which has been empirically validated by cause and effect, and then there is no arguing with it. There's no debate anymore. It's empirical. That's the point. But like this presentation is set out to do, you've got to understand what is and isn't science to get there. And the defining terms bit, man, that's way before the empirical evidence bit.
Yes, sir. Hey, Nathan, let's go through any comments and questions from everyone in here. If we could do that. You want to be in charge? Could you handle that one?
Probably not. I feel like death. I didn't want to have to pull that card. Get someone else to do it today.
Okay, I'll do it. All right, Andrew 11-7. You are off mute, sir. Comments, questions, concerns?
Thank you, sir, but I just got in, so I guess I'm kind of irrelevant.
You're kind of what?
Irrelevant. I mean, I don't have that much content of what has been talked.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, but you're not irrelevant, sir.
Oh, okay, fair.
All right. All right, thanks. Arwen.
Yes, sir.
Any comments, questions, concerns with the presentation?
Well, I think you put it down really well once again, clear and concise. Yeah, I guess it really is just a job of repeating it over and over again. And how can you get it through in an entertaining way that is memorable? And I think you're doing just fine. And it was nice to be able to contribute to it based on what I've learned over the years.
That was very concise. Thank you. Broken Curves. Comments, questions, concern.
It's about the Oxford Dictionary definition of science. It's not that I disagree with it, but when I was atheist, I took that definition to mean that only the physical existed.
Oh, I see what you. Yeah, I see what you mean. You could take it that way too. Yep, I see it. Yeah.
And like if you're only physically demonstrating, you can only physically demonstrate physical things. Like you'll never show anyone meaning.
Yes.
On that as well.
You want to comment on that, Adam?
Yeah, you raised it a little bit yourself in the presentation. There was a point you mentioned the trichotomy. There's the overlap between synthetic and supernatural. The point I thought was probably churlish at the time, but I wanted to raise it was actually there's a fundamental overlap of the supernatural into the natural, with everything that's encoded, the way everything works. All man does is hijack that fundamental that's laid out.
Yes. Yes, the information. Remember I said there's a little crossover, but I didn't want to go down that path. But that's okay that you went there, but you're exactly right. There is some crossover there, mainly with information. We're all chock full of information, so there's a little supernatural in the natural, us, life.
That's what I'm alluding to in terms of what Broken's saying there. The natural and physical is riddled, interlaced with the supernatural in terms of information.
Yes, with life it is. Yes, correct.
Is that technically true, though? Isn't information purely consciousness-based? Is it really out there that much? Or is it just in the conscious perception?
In life things. It's the dichotomy with biochem. Basically, we're talking biochemistry here. So biochemistry. Go ahead, Adam.
A seed is not just a structure of proteins forming a little nutty type structure. It's jam-packed full of information, absolutely riddled with so much information.
Yes.
But it tastes nice.
But isn't it a little complex? Isn't technically information, since it is supernatural, purely based on the conscious perceival of it? Like, just like writing or
No.
meaning. Story, if nobody is there that can read it, is it still that information?
Yeah, no, yes. You can put in place just like a computer, right? You don't have to be there. You can just arrange it in a way that it runs. It's a fire and forget type of thing. The information's still there, though.
Yeah. But how would you know if there was nobody to figure it out? See, that's what I mean.
You don't need to figure it out. It just happens.
Of course it does. But it's always going to be locked into a consciousness somehow.
Yeah, it is from the first cause. Yes, it's called the creator, God. Yes, agreed. Yep. Broken.
The only reason.
Go ahead.
The only reason I bring it up is it seems like there's a movement within Flat Earth right now that is trying to turn information into physical when they talk about concepts. And I don't think that's very healthy.
No, they haven't run across me just yet. They're gonna get how would you say, called out. But appreciate that. Anything else?
No, just but that's that definition. That's where they get the physical horizon from. You know, that's because we can see it. It must be physical, right? I mean, that's the reasoning that goes on.
Yeah, but we're not going down that street with that. That wasn't my purpose bringing up that definition.
Yeah,
Just to bring it back
sorry.
With the two definitions with science, it was several years ago that Quantum Eraser said this to me. That they're not actually that difficult, not that easy to track down. And I think he gave the same reason a couple of years ago as he gave on this show, which is to say that at that level, you're expected to know. It's so sort of base, it's so base level that you're not getting a lot of academics writing that stuff down, right?
No, you'll have a difficult time, surprisingly, if you go out there and search, experiments, scientific method. You'd think that it would be chock full. I mean, you would be overrun with this stuff. It's not. You've got to search. And you better make sure you check the sources. You're going to get science buddies. You're going to get a couple. Remember, I said basically they're just baseless assertions. Well, if you're getting baseless assertions by knuckleheads, that makes it 10 times worse. But you're not going to find this information readily available. I'm going to tell you. I'm here to tell you that.
And if I may,
there's a point to what I've just said. That the reason is because it's buried underneath the people who are utilizing these words and terminologies and words of science to punt their pseudoscience. They're all publishing their version of what they claim science is. And Science Buddies is a perfect example. Well, you can't have the magic trick work unless everyone's got a vague understanding of what science isn't in the definitions that you Google search.
You got it.
So yeah, it is difficult to find what it actually is, but the people who are performing it aren't too concerned because they already know and have brushed past that, and they're not, keen to write it down and publish it again. It's like, well, that's so rudimentary that it would be silly to publish it almost.
I disagree. I agree with you, but I got a follow-up point. I think that I remember the time when I was still in school, and there were always like special popular agendas with themes and all that in there for school. So why isn't it a standard staple agenda themed with the scientific method and just a real physics science themed agenda? Now that would be cool for this age. What do you think?
Best wishes.
Reinforcement would not be beneficial, would it? What Nathan alludes to is that we all remember it back in the past, and we don't necessarily remember is the nuances that are being highlighted by John. We tend to remember is that it's empirical and it means something. And I'm happy for you to have that, but it would be probably more questions would be raised if what John's done tonight, the rudimentaries of why it's important and why it means something was reiterated. That would highlight, wouldn't it, as John's doing?
Yep.
I'm just thinking if I was a kid still in school and I learned about the Flat Earth debate and the Ballbuster show, I would want my own QE themed agenda for school. I really would. I really, really would.
You made a comment a long time ago on one of my science presentations. I wasn't even aware of it, right? I went back to the presentation years afterwards, and it was Arwen. He was the first one to comment. It was a cathexis video, and he made an outstanding comment. So I can't remember everything about it. I can paraphrase it, but Arwen said, this should be standard fare in every science class. Was that correct, Arwen?
Sounds about right, yes.
Yeah. Appreciate that. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we got to rock and roll here a little bit because I got wingies coming. QE like wingies, all right? So we got to pick this up a little bit. Chocolate.
No. What's a wingy?
Chocolate. Comments, questions, concerns.
Man, this is what we do on the regular, so good stuff, good presentation, and yeah, man, enjoy your wingies.
We're not closing out just yet. I just want to get this going, get this party started, right? Don Geo, you had a question. If it's not associated with the scientific method, then just hold off on that, man, because I need to get through a bunch of people here. All right, go ahead, ask, Don.
I'll rattle off a 2-minute answer for him.
It's just an observation. What tool method do they use, so-called, for the distance to the sun? Now, utilize that same method, measure the distance to a rainbow.
Not the same method. Do you want the actual answer, or was that your point?
Yeah, use that same tool or measurements to pinpoint rainbow.
Okay, well, to answer the first part of your question, the way they get the distance to the sun is they get a spherical radius value by measurement by dip angle to a physical assumed to be horizon. And with that R value derived with trig from that dip angle measurement, got a spherical Earth, then you take that value and superimpose it onto Venus so that you can apply Kepler's third law of interplanetary motion to give you all the scaling values and distances, one of which being the sun.
Interesting.
You good, Don?
Yeah.
In other words, just assume.
Well,
yeah, that's where I was getting at.
They have a couple other different methods. One was brought up, I think, last week. And thanks a lot, Rumpus Boy. I hope people parrot this. I'm just sitting out here waiting with a nail spike 44-inch Louisville Slugger for some numpty to come in here or come on the Nathan show and I'm around. And they say, we've determined the distance of the sun by radar. I can't wait for that one. I tried to get it last week, but there was too many people in there, so I had to leave it. But I'm waiting for you, just so you know.
Yeah, you ask him. You ask him what black bodies were, and chaos suddenly descends.
Might get your chance. He's in here now.
Oh, God, he's going to interrupt my wingies. All right. Thanks. Don, was that it?
Yeah, it's a observation I'm thinking about. It's just interesting.
Okay, well, keep on going on that. If you have any additional concerns or questions about, you could, I'm around. You can PM me and stuff. We're good. So, thanks, Don. I appreciate that, man.
Appreciate.
Yep. Earth Passenger, you're a new guy on the block. We had a conversation the other day. It was fruitful. What's up, sir?
Hey, QE, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Any comments, questions, or concerns? We want to try to stick with the actual presentation. I know Nathan, he's probably wanting to talk about other stuff, and I guess that's okay. My wingies will get cold, and I'm going to hold Nathan responsible. So go ahead.
Well, to be honest with you, I would love to talk to Nathan. I am a huge fan. I think you're full of crap, but I'm a huge fan.
That's hilarious, man. I knew you were going to say something like that. Appreciate it. Now, any questions or concerns on this presentation, science?
No, to be honest with you, I just kind of tuned in a little while ago, so I'm lacking context of what's going on. But
okay,
enjoy you guys. Listen to you guys all the time. I think you're full of baloney, but I appreciate and I think you guys have skills.
Appreciate it, Earth Pastor. Go ahead, Nathan.
No, I was just I thanked him. I said thank you very much.
It's baloney. It's baloney, right? So we're butchers, global butchers.
But you know what? You know who my favorite flat earther is? Arwen. I think he's the only one that's consistent in his beliefs. And if you take Arwen's beliefs, because I know sometimes he gets disregarded by some of the other flat earthers, but Arwen, I'm going to tell you right now, I think you are the best flat earther out there, and I'm not talking crap. I think you're the best.
Not alone. I think Arwen's actually.
Arwen's ace, man.
We all think Arwen's ace.
I think we all agree on this. Arwen is ace.
Yeah, I agree totally. Arwen, I think you've got a lot of skills, man. I don't agree with you because I'm not a flat earther, but Arwen, you have skills, and I think if you can find your right niche in life, you're going to go far. And I appreciate you, and I really enjoy listening.
Wow, thank you, man. I really appreciate the compliment.
That was really nice, man. Thanks, Earth Passenger. That's all you got?
Yeah, and I just, again, when I've been talking with the other guys, we talk about flat Earth, globers and all that. Between the two of us, we're still a small community because most people don't give a rat's ass about this. So I love the fact that we're talking about it. We're questioning things. I'm on one side, you guys are on the other, but I appreciate it, and I have fun listening to you guys, and, that's basically it, and God bless.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. Flat Earther. Comments, questions, concerns about the presentation, sir? Hurry up, run back to... Hurry up and run.
John, why
why am I getting rumpus?
I weren't. I was asking a question.
Go ahead, Adam. What's up?
It was just a quickie on Arwen's award there. I'm not sure, Arwen, how useful is it as a flat earther to be the most consistent in your beliefs? I don't want to take the title away from you. I just wonder in its validity to a flat earther, consistency of beliefs.
What? Can you rephrase?
You just heard the smoke blowing and was happy with it, weren't you?
I kind of.
Arwen,
the validation of it was that you're the most consistent in your beliefs, which I wonder how that sits in terms of as a flat earther.
Arwen.
Yeah, beliefs. If you're going to get technical about the words, yes, but it could also mean I'm just the most stubborn guy from a baller perspective, and then it's an honor.
Arwen, you got to learn this skill. When you've reached the height of your powers, right? Somebody has made a comment or you made a joke, everyone laughed, or someone put you so high up on a pedestal, there's nowhere to go from there but the other direction. I would have, if it was me, somebody said that to me, I'd have just left.
Well, it's Adam. Adam's my buddy. He basically makes my show layout. So I gotta answer him, I can't just leave him in silence like that when he addresses me.
Too funny, man. All right, Flat Arthur, that was your last chance. He was probably scrambling back to his mic, but he's probably not around it. You can always come back, sir. So what we got? Neil!
Yes, Commander.
Commander? I'm not a commander, for crying out loud.
This goes back to Thursday. I just want to know what's wrong with Earth Passenger. He's not a flat earther? Are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me? Yeah. No, he's not. I have an interaction with him on Betty's Discord server. Shout out again to Betty. She couldn't be here, but we had an interaction. It was a little rough, but not too bad. And
After the Black Swan?
yeah, it was Black Swan, a bunch of other stuff, gas pressure without a container, the typical stuff.
That's what I'm saying, but after the Black Swan came out, come on, it's game over. Game over, man.
Yeah, he doesn't
Anyway.
know that yet because he's new. Give him another week or so. If he hasn't turned by then I've already marked him.
Gotcha. Anyway, I'm glad you dropped an anchor on this scientific method because it's really helpful. Learning much. Keep it going, QE.
I am. I'm dropping anchor. We're going to go over it. Not this same presentation. We're going to go to the next presentation, part 2, and hang out for another 3 weeks. And then part 3 for another 3 weeks. And part 4 for another 3 weeks. And I don't know. I may circle back. That's how I feel about it. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate that. Rags to riches. Paul, you're on deaf and mute unless you want to pull a quick one. That's not going to happen. My wings are still good. Skeptical. What's up? Questions, comments, concerns?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, how are you?
Good.
Good, man. So, first of all, good presentation. I appreciate your work. And I do have some questions, honestly. I have a specific question.
Yeah, just would like to keep it. Listen, would like to keep it one question. I'm sorry, but my wingies are coming.
Yeah.
I want to eat the darn wingies. So if you have a question or comment or concern, the best one that you got.
Okay, right. Just my question is in regard to the line of reasoning, because I personally sort of realized something in your presentation that I don't know, I could be wrong, it could be my own perception, right? I perceive that you favor or you prioritize deductionism over and above other line of reasoning, including induction or abduction. Because we know, right, for instance, the two historical figures like the Scottish philosopher David Hume, who was a deductionist. Then we've got the modern one, who is Karl Popper, yeah?
Yep.
The major deductionist. Right.
A major what?
So
Did you say inductionist?
Deductionist.
Oh, you said deductionist. Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. So we know that philosopher Karl Popper suggested that it is impossible to prove a scientific theory true by means of induction, because no amount of evidence assures us that contrary evidence will not be found.
That's correct. Because induction is, I'm going to tell you why he said that. Because induction is never found in the scientific method. In fact, he identified the problem of induction. Guess what example he used?
Yeah.
All swans are white. How we come circling all the way back. But go ahead, your question, sir.
Sorry?
But go ahead, your question.
So, I mean, basically, just my question is around the line of reasoning, because should we be reliant on inductionism?
No, you should.
We sort of throw inductionism through now. We should. You understand what I'm trying to?
I think I understand, but we're talking about the science, natural science, and the scientific method. It doesn't have any induction in it whatsoever. Now, do we throw all induction out? No, but it's not part of the scientific method. That's my answer.
But it's part of it. That's the whole point, right? So, because we don't forget the natural science, like physics and. But for instance, we know that most science, like biology, biochemistry, they mostly rely on inductionism as well.
No, they don't. Not the natural sciences, they don't. Induction is probability or likelihood. Now, some parts of it may rely on that. Those are the non-scientific parts. Okay.
Wait, I assume application of deductive.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what, because this is, hold on a second, Adam. This is going to get into a long discussion. Just wait, skeptical. Come by, because I think the logical reasonings with the scientific method may be the next presentation. So we could drop anchor right there. Is that okay?
Yeah, fine, yeah.
I don't mean to put my wingies above this, but they're on their way. Right, and I got to get through a couple more people. So I'm not trying to blow you off, man. Just wait for it. Induction, deduction, the reasonings, abduction are coming. They're coming, I'm telling you. Okay, cool.
Okay, right, definitely, yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Road Dust, what's going on? Questions, comments, or concerns? Quickly.
No, sir, just listening. First time in here.
All right, sir. Glad to have you. Thank you. All right. I got synthetic equals natural. Oh, God. That's Ed Freeze. Ed, you better make it quick. Do you know that name's a contradiction in terms, right?
Sure. But it isn't. So, do man-made objects follow the laws of nature, and are they made from natural materials?
It depends. They're made from natural. Everything is made from natural atoms, but that's a false division fallacy. It's an fallacy of induction.
Well,
so do they follow the laws of nature?
It depends on what you're talking about. You got to get specific.
Do man-made objects follow the laws of nature?
No, I already answered you. No, well, the laws of nature. So, man-made objects. So, I got a cup in my hand. It's a cup of water. And I put it up above my head with my arm. Is that a law of nature? You get it?
That's not what I asked.
Yeah, that's what you asked. I'm not playing your friggin' fruitcake games, okay? So, you're gone.
John, he's playing a trick question.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
He's not tricking anyone. So I don't want a discussion. I don't want a discussion about it, Arwen. Okay? I know what he's doing. I got it. Appreciate it. We got the rumpus. See, I'm trying to get through here because I know I got the rumpus. I'm going to take you off mute. If you say you don't understand, I'm going to immediately mute you. Okay? So, stick with the topic. This is about the scientific method and natural science. All right? Go.
Do you understand that the analysis of, say, your genome or the measurement of the size of a proton is science?
No, it's not. That's a what is question. It can't enter the scientific method.
Well, that's because you don't understand.
Oh, okay. Bye. Travis, how's it going, sir? Oh, is somebody taking these guys? All right, Travis. Questions, comments, concerns? I haven't seen you in a while, sir. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Yeah, good presentation. I caught about the last third of it. It was good. Science is narrow. Natural science is what's necessary to validate what we're going through right now.
Yes, sir.
Much kudos to you on doing your presentations and sticking to it. That guy, Earth Passenger, do you have any scientific evidence for the shape of the Earth? That's my only question.
Well, you're gonna have to ask him that question after the show, sir. Okay.
No worries.
Because we got wingies, right? So, anything else, Travis?
Yeah, man. How you eating your wings?
They are crispy wing. They're outstanding. It's gonna be hot sauce and ranch dressings with maybe a couple small slices of pizza. How about that?
Oh, cool, man. Cool. You do that blue cheese?
I don't do blue cheese, man. It's ranch dressing. I'm going to tell you one more time. It's ranch dressing. Right? We got some hot sauce going on. And maybe a couple small slices of pizza on the side. My mouth is watering just talking about it. But we got to get out of here real quick, man, because it's going to get cold. I think she just left to go pick them up. So appreciate it, Travis. We got to rock. Arwen.
All right.
Quick, concise. Channel shout-outs.
Yeah. Before that, just 20 seconds. Man-made devices abide by natural law, but you can't use them to derive a phenomenon for the scientific method. And that was basically the trick question. So anyway, the Early Bird Show on my channel, ARWIGN. I have a show every day at 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. Hope to see you there. I interact with chat a lot. Yes. A good show. Glad to be part of it once again.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Adam, sir.
Yeah, good show, John. The point of it where we mentioned semantics was important, and we did try and interrupt, but I was rumpus by chocolate. That was, and the answers become clear, but I did have to search on the internet, and that was the definition of wingy. Words mean something. So with that in mind, I'll keep my last question brief but twofold. QE likey, QE wanty.
Yeah, if you ever see Tommy Boy, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Appreciate it, sir. Nathan,
cheers,
sir.
pal.
Oh, you done?
Yeah, that hence the cheers. Yeah.
All right, sir. Nathan, take us home, sir.
Epic presentation. Massive thanks to all the members of the public who joined Discord to put their questions or queries. Really, really do appreciate it. Massive thanks to all of you in the live audience. I've just put a clip that's going to go out on Nathan Oakley 1980 at 1:30, so in about 10 minutes time. But there's a live chat running there, so you can join that live chat if you want to after this one. Or if you're watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, the rerun of this particular Ballbusters, massive thanks for joining in the running stream. Huge kudos to QE for putting these presentations together. And I will, round out the show, stress the importance of understanding what science actually is so you can spot what science isn't. Been Nathan Oakley, and massive thank you to all the Ballbusters panel. We'll see you in the next Ballbusters.